9-year-old Jason Kidd. Really, everybody else in that team, nobody's in their prime. Not one player, not even Dirk. You can say Dirk's not even in his prime. They played so hard that it was one of those oddball years because they beat a team in Miami that it wasn't that Miami couldn't beat them. Miami doesn't know how to finish. And that's a big issue with Miami. You can beat a young Bulls team. You can beat an old Celtics team. What happens when you're not the bully no more? And someone stands up to you.
I mean, but it finally took Dallas, what, 1 game or 2 games to finally respond to Miami's punches, though. Because, I mean, Jason Terry, he was off for the first 2 games in the finals when it was Mavs versus Heat. J.J. Barea really wasn't doing nothing.
The big part of the NBA is this. You don't know when the monster's going to wake. When that other team's monster, when Dirk awoke, everybody just followed. Jason Terry closed the games. But when he woke up, when he hit that game-winning shot, I believe it was either 4 or 5, the series was basically over. You could see it in Miami that they did not know how to close the game. And that was Miami's trend all of last year.
I agree.
All of last year. Miami's problem isn't that they can't be up 15 or 20. It's if they're up 4 or 5. They're so good defensively, but they're so bad in the last 3 minutes.
So, okay, now let's compare it now with Miami and Chicago now. Yeah, both two teams, arguably the best 2 defensive teams in the East right now.
In the NBA. They might be the best teams in the NBA.
Yeah, it might be honestly in the NBA. Both teams now, if you want to pit the Bulls and Miami, they failed. They didn't know how to close games. Because if you look at the Bulls game, the Bulls struggled versus the Pacers in the first round. The Bulls should have lost. Remember, the Bulls were down 20-plus in game 1.
How many true playoff veterans did the Bulls have last year? True playoff warriors.
If you're going to say true playoff warriors, personally, I can only think of is maybe Carlos Boozer. And maybe if Bogans if he had playoff experience.
That's my exact point. When you look at Miami and how Miami is built, Dwayne Wade has won a championship.
Well, actually, I should say, you know what? Also, Derrick Rose did have playoff experience. I'm forgetting about that.
First round experience. I'm talking about when you're really playing against teams that are equal to your talent. That's why Miami, people are so upset at them. People were so, what happened? They were supposed to win 75 games. The Bulls were supposed to win 45 to 55 games. The Bulls overachieved by far. But in their overachievement, they showed how good they can be. Miami is the perfect example of what happens when you have too many stars on one team that don't know their role.
But that's why I think this year, though, when you look at the NBA, you look at the NBA East, you have to pit Miami is going to go back to the finals because they just learned now in the finals. They were humbled in the finals. So now what do you learn in the offseason? You have to learn how to close the games. You have to know what is your role. LeBron James, when this whole season, will define him. Does he know what his role is with the Miami Heat? Because we know what Chris Bosh's role is. We know what Dwayne Wade's role is. And now with them adding like a person like Shane Battier, I mean, Shane Battier has a role right now for Miami. He's a 3-point guy, but he's also a defense specialist.
But the big issue is you're expecting LeBron James to be something he's never been. People have to look at LeBron James' actual game. He's always had the ball in his hands. Dwayne Wade's always had the ball in their hands. Skill-wise, talent-wise, they should win the East. They should win the championship. Problem is, I don't see how those two guys will coexist because the ball stops in the last 2 minutes of the game.
I agree.
They don't move the ball. They both want to do the same play. ISO offense. Which one of them is going to run around the screen and want to take a jump shot?
I agree. I think that's why you look at it this year. I think we all know, or you can expect, the guy down the clutch in under 2 minutes is going to be Dwayne Wade. I mean, that's just what it's going to be because he has the killer heart. LeBron, as you said, he lacks that. I mean, it's not that he lacks it because he had it in Cleveland when he was the only superstar. Because it's like you said, when LeBron had the ball in his hands, he was a killer. But when LeBron doesn't have the ball in his hands, he becomes just a regular NBA player out there. Yeah. And it's like you can't have that from a superstar like LeBron when you come into the league and you're supposed to be the chosen one. That's already enough pressure right there.
Nobody has felt the pressure LeBron James has felt. No one. Not Michael Jordan, not Will Chamberlain. No one. That kid was pricked when he was 16 years old to be the next big thing. It's unfair. But saying that, I didn't put the tattoo "I'm the chosen one" on my back. I didn't call myself on Twitter the King James. I didn't do that. So also, he's looking for it a little bit. LeBron James' issue is not physical. It's mental. But there's a lot of guys that have had the same issue, which is, how do I close the game?
I agree
How
with
do
you.
I win the game?
I agree.
Talent-wise, yeah, they're the most talented team in the East. They're the most talented team in the league. But I don't trust Eric Spoelstra. I don't trust LeBron James in the big moments. I cannot rely on Dwayne Wade to do it every time.
But, okay, you just said you can't rely on Dwayne Wade to do it every time. That's the same thing with the Bulls right now, because the Bulls' leading scorer is Derrick Rose, a point guard. Now, you can say maybe it's a point guard / shooting guard, but Derrick Rose is known as a point guard. The Bulls rely 95% of their offense on Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose can't handle the load all the time, but yes, we have, Luol Deng. He comes in every now and then, and he supports Derrick Rose with 15 to 17 points a game. But still, though, when you have Boozer, you don't know what you're going to get out of Boozer.
This is year 4 in Derrick Rose. Year 4 with him with this team, with the core players of Noah, Deng. Now, this is where the progression is supposed to meet. This is year 4. This year, we'll know more about the Bulls than we will know about Miami, because they have played long enough together. They should know the in and outs. The Bulls' problem wasn't that they couldn't score. The Bulls' problem was they didn't know what play to run.
No, I would agree with you, but I would also disagree with you there, because I think the Bulls' problem was definitely, though, in the fourth quarters. When it got to 8 minutes or less, the Bulls did not know how to score. The Bulls went on too many funks last year in the Eastern Conference Finals.
In the NBA, that was their MO all year.
That was
problems
exactly.
in the fourth quarter all year.
I mean,
the thing is with the Bulls is this simple. This team has been built with years coming now. Now we're going to know what they really are. Are they going to be like the Knicks were of the 90s, or like Indiana was of the 90s? Well, they'll always be close. They'll be next year's team. This is what happens. What they did last year, they shouldn't have done. They skipped a step.
They did. Because
they skipped a step.
I agree
so
with
if they can skip a step last year, why can't they skip a step this year?
Because my whole thing is, now we're going to talk into play. Okay, what if Boston stays healthy this year? Does Boston have one more run in them to challenge Miami for the finals?
Well, I never picked the Bulls to come out the East. Number one, I just said what could happen, but I never said what I see with Boston and LA. This is why I make them such strong favorites. These guys got to rest all year. They've played together 4 years, and I'm not saying they'll win the title, but Boston's gonna knock somebody out.
Yeah, exactly.
If I'm Miami, if I'm New York, and if I'm Chicago, because Boston will not be a top 4 seed. Boston doesn't care if they're 1 or if they're 8. Boston just cares about getting into the playoffs, because they could do the one thing fearlessly that all these 3 other teams have issues with. They can go on the road and they can beat you.
I agree with you right there. But my thing is this, though. That's the problem, though, with the East, because whether you have Chicago or whether you have Miami, you're going to see Boston in that second round. There's no and ifs or buts about it.
Yeah,
you're going to see
Boston.
You're trying to avoid Boston. That was the whole Miami-Chicago thing last year to get that number 1 seed. You're trying to avoid Boston. But here's my thing, though. If you remember the games last year, I think another team that the Bulls have problems beating is the New York Knicks. Now, granted, the New York Knicks, they lack a coach who knows defense.
But that was before Carmelo.
But
they lost 2 of those games before Carmelo got there. Problem is with New York's a different team now than they even were last year. They lost Chauncey Billups. They're a bigger and badder team. The Knicks are positioned to be the type of team that's going to beat you down.
Exactly.
And wear you down, if that's how they choose to play. But you got, 33, 34-year-old Mike Bibby? Mike Bibby did nothing in the playoffs.
He did nothing in the playoffs, but he made the key shots, though, versus the Bulls last year. I mean,
no, LeBron hit those fadeaway threes in Chicago.
I'm just
Bibby.
we're not talking about fadeaway three. Bibby still made a couple jump shots that they needed out of Bibby. Now here's New York's thing.
But you're asking for 35 minutes of Bibby. You're not asking for 15 to 20 minutes.
I agree with you. That's why that whole Carmelo trade, in the long run, it actually hurt the Knicks because they gave up too many valuable assets right there.
No, not for a superstar.
For point guard wise,
you try
yes.
to get when you're trying to get a Dwight Howard, a LeBron James, a Carmelo Anthony, and you've been the Knicks and you were terrible in the 2000s. You have to do it. They didn't have a choice because this is New York. This is not Denver. Excuse me, Denver. This is not Kansas City. This isn't Sacramento. This is New York. You have to go get the boy that legitimizes you. It certifies them. It makes them a contender again. Because if you put that same Knicks team on the table right now, you are not saying that they're one of the teams to beat the Bulls.
I'm not saying it. No, I agree with you right there. But if we put the same Knicks team that they had before Carmelo, though, I was actually nervous because this was a Knicks team, their up-tempo style. That's what that contradicts the Bulls style. Bulls style is more slow pace, defensive style. Knicks style is up-tempo, offensive style. And when you're looking at the games before Carmelo Anthony ever was a Knicks, the Bulls struggled versus the Knicks in that fourth quarter. It was just something about the Knicks. I don't know what it is, but as a Chicago Bulls fan, I'm like, why are we struggling? It's the
Knicks-Bulls rivalry. Anybody can win that game.
Exactly.
That's very up and down. It's fun. It is legitimately great for the NBA. This is what the NBA wanted. The NBA wanted the Bulls, the Knicks, Miami, and whoever else you could throw in the fourth seed, fine. They're hoping Boston it is again because you have the perfect semifinals in the East. In the West, now you're going to have the Lakers and the Clippers. You hope Dallas is still there, and Oklahoma City.
Yeah, what do you think? Let's since you switch it up to the West, what do you think about that Chris Paul trade to the Clippers now? What do you like? What's your honest opinion about the Clippers now? Are they there or no?
We will find out how good Chris Paul is now. We will see if Chris Paul is Isaiah Thomas or if he's just Rod Strickland, someone who gets great stats. We're going to see how good he really is because he has a legitimate team. I don't want to hear no excuses. He has Blake Griffin, who is the truth, who is Dominique Wilkins 2.0 as a power forward, Karl Malone. He has that type of talent.
But he's just
young and raw.
He's young and raw, but he lacks that one thing that comes crucial down in playoffs.
He can't shoot.
He can't shoot, and he cannot make a free throw worth his life.
Well, they have also Chauncey Billups. They have Mo Williams. They have a 3-guard rotation that's nice.
Well, they traded Mo.
They did?
Mo was part of that trade.
Wow. Well, you got Chauncey.